Governance Committee meeting for Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. I am Trustee Susie Ma, the Vice Chair of the committee. There's feedback, and I'm very far away from the mic. I'll try it again. Is that better? Yes? Thank you. So I will be chairing the meeting in place of the committee chair, Trustee Chan Pedley, who sends her regrets. I would like to call the meeting to order. With deep gratitude and respect, we are honored to be learning and unlearning on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish Nation, and the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. Be accessible to the public for viewing, even after the meeting ends. Footage from this meeting
Sweet.
Okay, we're going to try this again. So it's with deep gratitude and respect, we are honored to be learning and unlearning on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish Nation, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. The meeting is currently being broadcasted live, and both the audio and video recordings will be accessible to the public for viewing even after the meeting ends. Footage from the meeting may be viewed from Canada or anywhere else in the world. The board has a strong commitment to ethical conduct. This includes the responsibility of all participants to conduct themselves with appropriate decorum and professionalism. As the chair, the acting chair of this committee tonight, it's my responsibility to see that decorum is maintained. Following the presentations, there will be an opportunity to ask questions for clarification purposes. I ask all participants to keep questions and comments to the content provided in the presentation or the report. So before we begin, I ask that all participants introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Trustee Young, I am a committee member today. Thank you.
Maureen McCrae-Stanger, Associate Superintendent, Elementary Schools, she, her.
Carl Chanzi, Vancouver Secondary Teachers Association, he, him.
Trevor Wrench, VEPFA.
Denise Clark, VASA.
Francoise Ronet, Vase, she, her.
Tim Chester, Operating Engineers.
Janet Fraser, Trustee and Committee Member.
Elizabeth Kleiber-Noble from DPAC.
Flavia Coughlin, Secretary Treasurer.
Helen McGregor, Superintendent, and I will also say that Allison Ogden and Pedro Da Silva will be joining us shortly. They're both Associate Superintendents.
Cornelia Hack, Recorder.
Thank you for coming this afternoon. So we're going to look at agenda item number 1, which is items for approval, and there are actually none. So moving to the agenda this evening, we don't have any items for approval, and we'll then move directly to section 2. So under section 2 on your agenda, we have one item, which is item 2.1, receipt of advocacy subcommittee report. And as the chair of that advocacy subcommittee, I will present the advocacy subcommittee report of October 8th, 2025 for receipt by the Policy and Governance Committee. So at that meeting, the advocacy subcommittee discussed how the VSB advocacy points have been reflected in the recommendations for the provincial budget of 2026. Advocacy strategies for enhancing student learning, advocacy tactics for expanding dual credit pathways, and advocacy for equitable access to childcare. So our next meeting is scheduled on November the 5th. And so are there any questions regarding the report? Okay, seeing that there are none, I am prepared to proceed and look to the Policy and Governance Committee trustees to receive the report for October 8th, 2025 Advocacy Subcommittee meeting.
I approve receipt.
Also the same.
And I do as well. So if there are no objections, we will receive the report by consensus. All right, so we're going to go next to section 3, discussion items. And I will ask Secretary Treasurer Flavia Coughlin to present item 3.1, policy review for policy 7, board operations, and policy 8, board committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the agenda package starting on page 7, there is a comprehensive report that outlines the engagement to date regarding policy 7, board operations, and policy 8, board committees, and how the feedback that was collected to date was incorporated in the draft policies that are presented today to the committee for discussion. I will first highlight some changes that have been incorporated in the new draft policy 7, board operations. Policy 7, we have used the feedback to redraft the policy to ensure compliance with the relevant legislative framework, and in particular the School Act. The new policy incorporates a section on meeting the quorum, adopts modernized language, reflects current practices, and is aligned with other board policies. It should be noted that the trustee remuneration and expenses section has been omitted in this new draft, as a standalone policy will be developed regarding this matter. We also collected significant feedback with respect to public delegation board meetings. And there was significant discussion at previous committee meetings with respect to having the public delegation board meetings in the format that we had them in the prior year, which was a full week before the public board meeting and prior to the publication of the public agenda board meeting, or the model that we have adopted in the current year, which has the agenda for the public board meeting being published a full week before the public agenda, before the public meeting, and the public delegation board meeting as a standalone meeting occurring after the agenda is published and the same week as the regular public board meeting. In the draft policy that is included in the package, we have incorporated the current pilot model for public delegation board meetings as the ongoing model for the board. We also updated in the draft policies the rules for delegations, mainly for clarity, as we heard a lot of feedback from committee members around the language that was used not being clear enough. We have heard feedback around the limit that we have for speakers to register to speak on the same topic only once and not having a specific limit to that. So in this draft policy, we now have that as one per term of the board. And we have also added a detailed process for approving delegations, and we've incorporated the decorum expectations within the policy. Prior to this, we had them published on our website and embedded in other parts of policy under agenda setting. In terms of speaking time at public delegation board meetings, that has remained unchanged. That was the consensus in previous meetings, that 5 minutes is a reasonable time. We have also incorporated in this draft policies having the regular board meetings on Wednesday. So that is what the schedule that we are piloting in the current year, and that received unanimous support at the prior Policy and Governance Committee meeting, and we are incorporating that in the draft policy. and the public delegation board meetings occurring the Monday before the public regular board meeting. So Monday, public delegation, Wednesday, regular board meeting. Also, in the engagement process, we received a lot of feedback with respect to electronic participation and electronic meetings. And the new draft policies includes both provisions for electronic meetings and trustee participation in meetings through virtual means. And in the sections that have been drafted, we have incorporated feedback from the committee that talked about having very specific guidelines in place for allowing trustee participation through virtual means, also specific guidelines for electronic board meetings. And I will move on to policy 8 and how we incorporated the feedback in this policy. So policy 8 is not quite as significant as for redraft as policy 7. It's mainly tweaks for clarity, but I will also run through how the feedback was used in this new draft policy. First, we received feedback around having to define how subcommittees function in the governance framework of the board. So we now have a new section in the policy, section 2.6, subcommittees to board standing committees, which defines how subcommittees function. We have also included in the appendix to the policy the terms of reference for the one subcommittee that currently exists, which is the advocacy subcommittee of the board. And that is the subcommittee of the Policy and Governance Committee. We have also updated section 4 to reflect the fact that the board may invite inherent rights holder representatives and stakeholder representatives to attend ad hoc committee meetings. In this policy, also we have provided additional clarity with respect to agenda setting, the process for setting agendas for committees, how questions can be provided for consideration as part of agenda setting. This was a topic that was discussed significantly at previous meetings, and we really want your feedback on the clarity that was provided there, if additional information needs to be incorporated in policy to ensure that everybody has a good understanding of the agenda setting process and how items are added to committee meeting agendas. We have also received feedback that section 1.1, meeting decorum, could use an update and have more positive language used in that section. So we have redrafted the meeting decorum section 1.1 to use more positive language. Also, some specific feedback was provided with respect to the terms of reference for the Finance and Personnel Committee and the responsibilities assigned to that committee. And we have updated that section to reflect current practice. We consolidated what used to be D1 and D4 into one statement of responsibility. And there was an advocacy matter that was embedded within the terms of reference, specifically providing a submission to the Select Standing Committee on Finance with respect to the provincial budget. That is now part of the Advocacy Committee, part of the tactics that we use. So that has been removed from the Finance and Personnel Committee. And one piece of feedback that was not incorporated in the policy, some stakeholders identify a preference to have personnel separated from the Finance Committee. And in the current draft, we continue to have that committee as a combined committee, Finance and Personnel, but with a very specific direction that personnel matters will be included on the committee agenda on a regular basis, similar to what has happened in the past year. And in order to collect feedback on the two drafts, we have provided in the agenda guiding questions for you to consider, and they are similar for board policies, which is, does the current draft version of policies 7 or 8 reflect the feedback received to date and ensure alignment with applicable legislative framework and other board policies? And are there any areas where further refinements or clarifications are needed? And at your tables, we're going to have facilitators to help document the conversation. You also individually have a little note-taking sheet, and any notes that you take, you can share them with us. We'll collate all that and ensure that all the information that is collected today is shared with the ad hoc committee that was formed by the board to review and draft policies 7 and 8. And we'll also share that with the board, and all the feedback collected will inform further changes to the 2 draft policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Are there any questions related to the presentation? Okay, seeing none, we're going to actually go to item number 4, which is adjournment. So we've addressed all the items on the agenda, and we're now going to move into small group discussions regarding the current draft versions of Policy 7 and Policy 8 that are included in your agenda package. And the discussion will be guided by the questions included in the agenda package. The information collected will be shared with the ad hoc committee for the review of Policy 7 and 8 of the board. And this live broadcast will end now, and the meeting will adjourn following the conclusion of the small group discussions, or at 6:30 p.m. And we will see you at the next Policy and Governance Committee meeting on November 12th, 2025.